Handling customer requests is not always easy. Who takes charge of them? Who gets to make the decisions? How do you say no when it really matters? It all starts with having the right attitude and a clear plan. So I thought I'd put together a quick episode on the best ways to approach this. I remember way back in the day when I was working on my first project with a product role, and they asked me to step in as a product lead. And I joined them just when they were starting to scale or trying to scale and led one of the two products they had at the time for a couple of years until it became incredibly successful. And after years spending time with mostly engineers, it was the first time that I felt like I had a real contribution to give to the organization. Before I joined, after the interview process, they said, I passed all the interviews with flying colors, but my future boss wanted to talk to me more before they gave me an offer. We met and they told me that it was going to be a tough role. I believe they weren't sure that I had what it took at the time. Telling me something is good is going to be a challenge that does the exact opposite of scaring me. It's when you tell me something is a challenge, it incentivizes me. So after listening carefully to the scare talk, I told this leader that I was going to be a good product manager, and whether I do it with their company or another company, that I was going to be successful and I was going to knock it out of the park. And I got the job, obviously. But many years later, I have to agree with them on the toughness part, not necessarily on me having everything that it took, because the truth is, product roles aren't for everyone. Just what it boils down to. One of the challenges is that everyone always has an opinion about product work. They keep challenging you. It sometimes feels like whenever you want to lead in a certain direction, someone's going to tell you that you're wrong. They could be right. You may be crazy. And it just may be the lunatic you're. Oh, wait, that's Billy Joel's song. No, it could be that you're both right because there are no absolute correct answers when it comes to product work. I don't know about you, but when people keep telling me I might be wrong at some point, I start believing it myself. It's a manifestation. And so I find myself complaining about how everyone tries to tell me what to do. And it's not like me to complain, but I'm glad I did it that one time. I received an answer that I didn't expect, and it had tremendous impact on me going forward. This leader told me that they know that I am aware of my product and market better than anyone else in the organization. In other words, they told me that they trusted me and that I should trust me too. It was a defining moment in my life. It didn't change much of what I did at that moment or later on, but it changed how I felt and managed certain situations going forward. I'm sure if you had this happen, you know how it feels. It's really hard to lead when everyone has an opinion on what you need to do. It's even harder when the senior people or the hippo, the highest paid person, or you get someone who is a sponsor for a project. When they come in and say you must do something or else it's going to fail, it leads you to doubt what you know. But if you do just as you're told, you're not really doing your job. Over time, you're probably doing more harm than good. So how do you stay true to your real responsibility? How do you stay true to who you really are? You need to understand and own that big picture. Before you can build trust, you need to know what you're doing. Uh, you've heard me say this quote a million times. With great power comes great responsibility. So before you ask people to follow your leadership, you need to ask them to know where you want to lead them. They need to know who you are and where you're trying to go. The reason this leader was able to trust me so bluntly was that I worked really hard to make it known that I knew what I was talking about. I met with customers on a regular basis, and when I did, I listened carefully to read between the lines and not just take what they said at face value, but to identify the symptoms leading to the bigger problem and solving the bigger problem and not the symptoms. I made sure to seek to serve the market, not just specific customers, since that's our responsibility as product people. I took the time and the freedom to think about what makes the most sense and what doesn't, and provide real insights and drive meaningful decisions. It's the foundation of everything else. The big key here is to trust yourself. That's the big message. Once you do that, you'll still have some doubts. That's just the nature of what we do, especially when it comes to dealing with specific requests or from senior leaders or often like really assertive people. To be able to cope with them, you have to learn to trust yourself and understand that you have a say as well. You have a vote, you have skin in a game. What you have to contribute to the discussion is valuable, and you're not just being a gatekeeper who says no all the time. More often than not, when I see product people now, I look for the ones that are not letting themselves think. And I say, you need to think things through. Many of them assume their role is to say yes and to serve the business and just build whatever's being asked of them. And that can do attitude is great, but it doesn't always lead to them building the right thing. So the big difference between product owners and managers that are successful and the ones that aren't are the ones that are critical and say, help me understand why you need this. Help me understand what impact it's going to have. Help me understand how this is going to benefit us moving forward. Make room for yourself to consider all the options. Don't lose before you play, right? If you want people to trust you, you need to trust them. Trust is a two-way street, right? And it might not come with the notion that you're the only one who knows these things and other people don't really know what they're talking about. It's tempting to think that when someone comes and asks you for a feature just because they don't want to work so hard to do their job, sometimes that's true, but you don't want to start there. Instead, start the discussion. Help me understand. How did you get to that conclusion? Help me understand why this feature is needed. Help me understand how significant is this for the end consumer. If you ask these questions, you're going to get the answers that you're looking for. It's going to help you navigate your way to a solution that everyone enjoys. I think the key here to seal the whole thing together is you have to make them trust you. And it's not something that can be forced, right? You have to earn their trust. If you want to create a real partnership with your teams or with internal stakeholders, you need to build your credibility. You can't just say no. If that's the only thing you ever do or say, they'll stop approaching you and they'll go above your pay grade to somebody else. And that's when you really start receiving the orders and the commands to do things, whether you like it or not. Instead, you need to create partnerships with them. It sounds hard, but it's really not, because you have a shared interest in the same thing for the company to succeed and for you to succeed in the organization. You want the product to win and you want everyone to win, the teams to win. That's why your default approach should always be to want to help and help get to a point where you're saying yes. It doesn't mean you always say yes or you say yes eventually, but it's not the same thing they requested, but you show that you're there with them and that you're willing to work with them. And I think that's just so critical and so important. They need to know that you care. It was Richard Branson who went on record and said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's so critical. If you're just, you need to focus on value that goes beyond just feature delivery period. You need to focus on outcome and impact instead of output. If you come in with the right mindset, you truly can create magic. Remember that you and all those other people are all on the same team. You're all trying to drive towards a common goal. Don't make it harder than it actually is. Figure out where things are and what you need to do, and that's when you're going to be successful in your Agile implementation. That's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a topic you want to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. I'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.